good versus bad, those are just value judgments too. What does good mean? What does bad mean? If a bear is out there and there's a little cute bunny rabbit and the bear grabs the bunny rabbit, rips to shreds and eats it, is that bad? It's bad for the bunny rabbit. It's good for the bear. So what's good and bad? Welcome back to another Deep Dive with Derek. I'm your host, Derek. My friends call me D-Rock, which means you can call me D-Rock. On this channel, we take a look at music through the lens of philosophy, really, through the lens of meaning in life. How we can get through this life, both the good side, the upside, and the dark side of life, and feel like there's a sense of meaning there. So that's what we tend to do, and we especially do that with Ren. I'm back with another Ren reaction. This is Eden. And I've got a list of his albums. Demos, Volume 1, 2. We've got, of course, Sick Boy, Freckled Angels. I don't see Eden on here anywhere. So I don't know where this song lands in the world. It just came out, it looks like yesterday. So anyway, we're about to get this. So let's check out Ren, Eden.
A story as old as time, the story of Adam and Eve. It starts with a God who wanted more. God had just created the heavens and the earth. He had the angels by his side, but they had no will of their own, and so the autonomy to love or reject him was never theirs. All but for one, the once called bringer of light, Lucifer, morning star. Lucifer was the fairest and most intelligent of all the angels. He was the closest thing to God's image, and in his likeliness, Lucifer felt restless. He began to question and doubt God. He doubted the hierarchy opposed upon him. He felt God was arrogant. In his frustration, Lucifer built a throne that stood even above God's and declared mutiny. A war ensued. God, being all-powerful, came out the victor and banished Lucifer from the heavens and exiled him to earth. Once again, God was alone with his power. Perhaps from loneliness, perhaps from curiosity, perhaps from a desire to share love, God began to work on his greatest project yet, a being that would mirror himself, the human, two humans specifically, Adam and Eve. They were placed inside a paradise built for them on earth, the Garden of Eden. In the garden, God placed a tree that bared fruit that would grant anyone who ate it powers bestowed only to a God to tell good from evil.
So this isn't a song. This is just some kind of a narrative, a story time. Sunday school. Welcome to Sunday school. We're checking this out. But yeah, obviously this is the Genesis of the Bible, the book of Genesis. So Christianity has its roots here. I'm curious if there's a twist, or if this is just going to be a straight story about the origins of human life through the lens of Christianity.
Left from right, to live righteously or to sin. He named this the tree of knowledge. God told Adam and Eve they could eat whatever they wanted in the garden, but never the fruit from the tree of knowledge. And if they disobeyed him, it would be punishable by death. The basic way the story of Eden is told is that Eve was tempted by Lucifer in the form of a serpent to eat a fruit from the tree of knowledge. Convinced, she bit the fruit, she passed it to Adam, and he did the same.
I like the 8-bit, or what looks like 8-bit or 16-bit graphics from like the old video games, which is amazing. And I wonder where this is going, but there's a field called terror management theory, which says that all things that humans do are out of a fear of death. That's the reason we do everything. It's because we want to either delude ourselves and hope that we're not going to die, or some version of that. We create immortality stories, literal ones, with things like religion. Other literal ones, like uploading consciousness to a computer, or what's the one? Freezing yourself until they can cure you later. So these are ways that we want to pretend we're not going to die. I'm just going to go to heaven, or I'm just going to be reborn. And then there's figurative stories, figurative immortality stories. These are getting my name on the spine of a book, getting my name on a building, so at least something will live on about me. And they trace this back to, Adam and Eve, as I understand it, were never supposed to die until they did this, and then all of a sudden now they're going to die. It gets pretty confusing because I think didn't these guys live to 900 years old or something like that? I don't know, but I'm starting to hypothesize where he's going to go with this story here. Or is it that the story that the lady's the bad one because she tempted Adam to do it, and she was the one that was tricked by the snake? Or that's what he's going here so far. There could be some messages around why would God even put this temptation here if he knew that they were going to fall for it. Who knows? Let's see where he's going.
Suddenly, ultimate knowledge filled their minds, and they realized they were naked and felt shame. God discovered this betrayal and felt anger. He exiled Adam and Eve and cursed them with the life of a mortal. They would work, they would bear children, and they would die. The fate of a human. Now look deep.
Now it's the human condition. So what does it mean to be a human? That's what it is. And so much of terror management is ignoring the human condition. So not only are we born and then we have this life and then we die, but life is going to be a series of challenges and setbacks and struggles. Also things that we tend to try to push away.
Children, and they would die. The fate of a human. Now look deeper.
In the story, the serpent tempted me by telling me I would gain ultimate knowledge and that God would spare me.
Okay, hold on. Is this now... These are some interesting stories, if this is what he's doing. Have you seen or read the story Wicked, the play or the book Wicked? Wicked is the Wizard of Oz, the tale of the Wizard of Oz, but from the perspective of the Wicked Witch of the West. And I forget that author's name offhand, but he's done several stories like that. Here's a popular story, and then let's change the protagonist. And that can change how you see how things happen. It changes your perspective. It's similar to something like Breaking Bad or Dexter, where they make a bad guy the protagonist, and all of a sudden you're rooting for him. And it's also the theme that he took on in Money Game Part 3. You can check that one out here. So this is pretty interesting.
By telling me I would gain ultimate knowledge and that God would spare me.
Both were true.
This wasn't some great deception, meaning that Satan, in the likeliness of God, perhaps understood his intentions. In fact,
the only lie uttered in the
Garden of Eden was
by God, who did not end up
condemning
Adam and Eve to
death.
This could be seen as an act of
mercy, but the sheer fact that the tree existed and that humans
were initially cut off from this knowledge
may imply some part of God was afraid that if
Hold on, I didn't know that Ren was going to interject. So there's something going on here. So, well, let's start over here. So she's saying, yeah, here's what happened. It kind of reminds me of like a news story where they interview the person. What happened now? What was your perspective?
In the story, the serpent tempted me by telling me I would gain ultimate knowledge and that God would spare me.
Both were true.
This wasn't some great deception, meaning that Satan, in the likeliness of God, perhaps understood his intentions. In fact,
the only lie uttered in the
Garden of Eden was
by God, who did not end up
condemning
Adam and Eve to
death.
This could be seen as an...
That's interesting, yeah. So the punishment was supposed to be death, and instead it was just, eventually death. So instead of dying immediately, it was, you now have a finite life.
Act of mercy, but the sheer fact that the tree existed and that humans
were initially cut off from this knowledge
may imply some part of God was afraid that if humans were granted the gift of perception, they, like Lucifer, would have the power to reject him too. The fact that there stood a beautiful tree that could
grant this knowledge in the first place
implies that a small part of
God, supposedly all-knowing,
perhaps wanted and intended
the humans to bite too.
In the Bible, Satan was an exiled angel of free will. Humans are exiled
descendants of Adam and Eve,
also with free will. Not only have we shared a similar fate to the devil, We were also both constructed in the
We were
image of
also
our
both
Creator,
constructed in the image of our Creator.
meaning our behaviors, in some shape or form, imperfectly echo His.
We could assume that this kind of
God has his doubts,
But-
but as the most
powerful
Being in the universe
he has no one above him
to turn to with questions, and no one to
Doubt but himself.
This is it. This, who knows, the Ren verse, all the renegades out there who are way deeper and well versed than I am. This isn't a song, but it is a very well edited, well put together video. And maybe I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know. There's still several minutes left here. So maybe I'm getting to the point of what he's talking about, but this is very interesting. It reminds me, it's got themes from things like Heretic and, gosh, I can't remember some of those other songs where he's doubting his Dear God, I think was another one.
he has no one above him
to turn to with questions.
But he wouldn't have any questions, right? If the Christians believe that this God is all-knowing, which means I would never have any questions because I know everything. So I wouldn't need to turn to anyone.
And no one to
Doubt but himself. An incredibly lonely and isolating existence.
We must only assume that the common thread between God, Lucifer, and us is the desire for more, an eternal curiosity, a desire perhaps birthed from a seed of loneliness. If not, why would we exist in the first place?
Well, that answer is just randomness and evolution.
Seed of loneliness. If not, why would we exist in the first place? The constantly looping, bittersweet irony is whether gifted by some omnipotent God or simply a byproduct of billions of years of evolution, here we stand, in 2023, as creatures with free will. The only creatures that understand and define good from bad.
All right, so do we have free will? There is actually research out that suggests pretty convincingly that free will is an illusion. If you put us under fMRI machines and watch the brain decides what we're going to do before we consciously know what we're going to do. Which hand am I going to raise up? The left one. That I didn't actually choose that. So there is some element, and when you get deeper and deeper into mindfulness practice and meditation, you can usually break the identification with the self. So you can learn that the sense of self is an illusion, just like the sense of free will is. And that's freeing, but that's muddling up the waters. I'm just wanted to highlight the fact that this is being researched, and it's more deterministic than we think. It's our choices, but we don't know why we made those choices mixed in with random events. That's what gives us our outcomes. But what he's saying here is we still make choices, whether or not it's free will, however we want to define that. We're still the one making choices, and that's what he's talking about.
The only creatures that understand and define good from bad.
And good versus bad, those are just value judgments too. What does good mean? What does bad mean? If a bear is out there and there's a little cute bunny rabbit and the bear grabs the bunny rabbit, rips to shreds and eats it, is that bad? It's bad for the bunny rabbit. It's good for the bear. So what's good and bad? Right? Good and bad depends on our perception. And they're just value judgments that we add as humans onto it.
Creatures with the potential of a god. And what do we do with that free will, my friends? We willingly walk to the edge of a cliff. In the name of progress, we jump off the precipice. The empires we build ravage the earth. The natural order of things are necessary to survive. Any systems which do not honor homeostasis eventually perish. Our free will overrides our own biological instinct. We can take more than we eat, We can kill more than we need. We can willingly create weapons with the potential to burn everything we've built to the ground. We willingly decide to bow at the altar of greed, the most insidious and destructive of all sins. We put our faith in corporations who pose as rulers. We willingly allow ourselves to be led by outdated power systems ran by corrupted politicians
and bloated dictators who claim domain and dominion over an open and free land.
We willingly elect the corrupted when the decision was always ours to build something better. We willingly create and impose separation because of beliefs that we are force-fed through our phones and televisions.
So this is getting deep. So is it true that we, I forget what he said, consciously decided, or we willingly chose? Yes, but what does he mean by we? We individually chose, or we collectively chose? Because that's quite different. I didn't choose, for example, as an individual, to use in the United States here the voting system that we have, which is run by an electoral college, and this is the type of thing that made sense when it was the 1700s or the early 1800s, and I needed to actually be represented by a person who would ride his horse to Washington, D.C. and represent my interests there. That made some sense. Now we don't really need that anymore. So there's a school of thought that I tend to agree with that says it should be popular vote and it should just be on the phone. We shouldn't have senators making our decisions for us. We should be making the decisions. Scary as that sounds, many of people are uninformed, but there is this idea of the wisdom of crowds, which is what he's kind of tackling. Is there a wisdom of crowds? Because if you follow the herd might be running off the cliff. But this taps deep into our ancient mind. One of our core needs is safety and security. And if the herd starts taking off, I have two choices. I follow the herd and stay with the herd, because what do they know that I don't know? Maybe there's a predator coming, and if I don't go with them, I'm dead. But if I follow the herd, I have no idea where they're going. All I know is it's either stay here by myself, vulnerable, or follow the herd, and they might go over a cliff. So collectively, we can make silly decisions, but collective is just a group of individual decisions over time. So decisions like this evolve much like species do. Just random, decisions over time, and we always build from where we were. You don't start a species from scratch. You don't start a civilization from scratch. You don't start a language from scratch. They are all evolved from different things, and there's one decision and another decision and another decision and so on. And then eventually you can get to this place where you're like, why do we have this? We would never design this. And that's how we got here, for the most part. I mean, there's a lot of nuance in there, of course.
We always had the will to reject these things, but we adhere to them as though they were the laws of physics. War, famine, pestilence, greed, these aren't things imposed upon us by an all-powerful God or by his demonic adversary. They are here because of us, not because of free will, but because of our inability to use it. We must be motivated to be better, not out of fear of punishment of an eternal damnation, but because the choice exists, because we love ourselves, because we have the power to absolve ourselves of so much unnecessary suffering. Take a second to be in this very moment.
100% you're speaking to the choir here. Mindfulness is, sometimes people call it vitamin M. If you could have access to this vitamin, that would make you more resilient. It would help you grow better. It would manage your mood. Would you take it? It's also free, and that's mindfulness. Because most of us are in our head in the past. We're ruminating, thinking about what could have been, what should have been. This person did this. Why did they do that? How come they didn't this? Why did I do that? How come? And we're ruminating about the past. We're spending our life in the past. But the past is nothing but a thought. The past doesn't exist. Just our thoughts of the past exist. Or people are worried, or they're scared, or they're fearful of the future. Right? So the future also doesn't exist. It's only a thought. It's only anticipation. So most of us are spending our lives in things that don't exist. We're spending our lives in the past or in the future. Now is the only thing that can ever exist. Now is the only thing that ever matters. So I'll let him say it. He said it best.
Unnecessary suffering. Take a second to be in this very moment. In this moment, how much suffering is happening all over the planet right now? How many people are dying of illnesses that could have easily been cured, but aren't because of the selfishness and greediness of humanity? How many people break their backs and reject their own passions to simply afford bills and food? How many of us crave distraction from existence? How many of us numb that pain in whatever way necessary? How many children are being abused? How many people sleep cold and hungry on the streets? How many of us become cogs inside a machine that is destroying itself? How many soldiers have been forced to fight in meaningless wars? How many humans have killed for ideals they don't believe in or understand? How many people have died for the greed of another man? And how much of this was avoidable? As written in the Bible, Satan was not condemned to hell. Satan was condemned to earth. He lives there amongst other creatures with free will, who always had the choice and still chose their own undoing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our self-made hell. The bittersweet irony is this is a creation of our own design. I'll leave you with this. Consider what you have done here today. You have worked together as individuals collaborating to form a giant neural network, a hive mind capable of achieving incredible things. We have lent on each other's strengths to solve puzzles and decipher riddles, and we've done so to win money.
So this must be the culmination or part of that scavenger hunt that he put out? I wasn't a part of that, so that seems like that's what I...
Imagine applying that same spirit and determination to creating the closest thing we have to paradise, here on Earth. By using the power of collaboration, we can work together to even the playing field for everybody. Our dystopias can become utopias. Our Jahannams can become Jannah. Our hells can become heaven, right here on Earth. And this sentiment applies to atheists, agnostics, and believers alike. Myself, I'm an agnostic who believes. I believe in us. We must do better because we can choose to. We must be better simply because the option exists. Thank you.
Okay, well, another powerful... I'm going to call this a poem. Narrative? I don't know. But I liked it. It gave us a lot to think about. And but I want to hear from you. What did you think about it? What really, really hit you? What knocked you on the head and made you think, wow, that's crazy? I want to hear from you. And finally, I'll leave you with this. I don't want to say I'm running out of. I got a whole list of songs. But I want to hear from you. What should I've hit all the big ones, I think, of the Red song. So what should I react to next? So here's what I'm going to do. First person, tell me what song to react to next, and I will react to that one. If I already have, I'll leave a link, and then I will go to the second person who suggested a song. So I'm very curious to hear what I should be reacting to next. Thank you for joining. If you're new here, consider subscribing and hit the thumbs up button. Let me know this is something that you enjoy, and I look forward to continuing my Ren journey. Hey, D-Rock again. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy what I'm doing here. If this kind of thing is interesting to you, and especially if you like the bad drawings at the beginning, you might be interested in my weekly newsletter. It explores money's role in a meaningful life. So you can check that out at meaning.blog if you want. It takes this and it goes a lot deeper. So if you like that, check it out. Let me know what else I should be doing, what else I could be doing, and I'll see you here next time.